Mondays on the homestead are always a weird mix of chaos and unhurriedness. And today I want to take you with me on this ordinary Monday morning. I'm Justine, a wife and homeschooling mother of 6, homesteading in Eastern Ontario. I hope you enjoy this peek into our lives. This particular morning, my husband was leaving for work quite early. He works outside the home, usually 9 or 10-hour days. So it's not unusual for me to miss him leaving, but on this day, he was leaving a little bit later than usual, and so we got to connect for the day and say hi and just talk through a couple things before he was on his way to work. I wake up quite early in the morning. I like to have some time by myself before the kids wake up just to think my own thoughts. And one of my favorite things to do while the kids are still sleeping is to do my morning prayers. This involves reading the morning prayers in my 1962 daily missal, and then I like to read the readings for the day and just reflect a little bit on them, and then I start doing my prayer intentions for the day. It's a really lovely time for me. In the winter, it's nice and warm with the stove and the fire. And in the summer, the sunshine shines through, giving the whole room like a beautiful glow. And so I really look forward to this time. And if I have to miss it because the kids are up or I woke up late, it really grieves my heart. Although the clock read 6:51, it's actually an hour earlier. I set our clocks an hour ahead so that we're always a little bit early. While I was praying, the baby actually woke up, so I had to run up and nurse her back to sleep. So it is a little bit later at this point, and I'm going to get ready to do chores. I am fully aware that I look like a hobo, but I don't really care because it keeps me warm to wear my husband's old coat and my overalls, and I just would rather be comfortable than fashionable. I mean, the cows and the chickens don't really care how I look in the morning, so I'm just going to go with it. The dogs are always so excited to see anyone in the morning. It's like we are their favorite people, and they are just so happy to see us. The one laying down right now is Max. He's half Great Pyrenees, half golden retriever, and he does most of the work for us, barking all night long. So that's why he was so exhausted and wouldn't even get up off his mattress because he has just been working all night. I always go check on the chickens first, mostly because the kids do the bulk of the chores in here. But I like to make sure that everything is going well, and I actually turn on the light for them. We provide them with supplemental light at the moment because I find there's not enough light coming from the windows, and it's a little bit depressing in the coop. So leaving the light on can extend their laying. It does a little bit, but I don't find it makes a huge difference. What I do find it does is it makes them a little bit happier. So I'd rather pay a little bit more for an extra light left on during the day than have them unhappy throughout the entire winter. It's funny because they say that chickens are the gateway drug to homesteading, and for us that was right on the nose. We had a chicken coop, an illegal chicken coop, in the suburbs where we lived before. And every time I was in there, I would just think, I want more of this. This is what I want to do all the time. And so here we are, 5 years later, doing all the stuff that I pictured myself doing when we first built that little chicken coop and I was taking care of my 4 chickens. I don't find myself motivated to do the chores every single mornings. Sometimes it's rougher to get out there because it's cold or because I'm tired or my head hurts and I just know the kind of day that's lying ahead for me. But once I'm out there with the animals, just doing it, it feels worth it again. When I see the sun rise and I'm walking outside and it's a beautiful new day and I get to enjoy it, then I remember why we're doing this, why we decided to move to this homestead, why we're doing all of this stuff the hard way. Because it's worth it. Because it makes my soul sing to take care of my animals and to live this life regardless of how difficult it is. If you had told my 20-year-old self that in 10, 15 years, I would be living on a homestead, gladly picking poop off the ground, and a mother to 6 children, I would not have believed you for a second. I was on my way to working in a public relations career. I was a city girl. I wanted nothing to do with the country. I knew nothing about animals. And then my husband and I had a reversion, and we found God, and everything else just kind of fell into place, and we knew this is what we wanted. I think a lot of people in our society talk about wanting to be happy. What is happiness, right? But I don't think that happiness is what we are truly seeking. I think what we need to be seeking is joy. That inner joy in your heart, knowing that every day you're doing the things that you love. That's what we should be looking for. Happiness is fleeting, it's momentary. But joy, that's something that you carry inside of you all the time. As I was doing the chores, the kids were slowly waking up. I had some early birds this morning. I don't really wake the kids up. I let them wake up when they feel they are ready. They'll have years and years where they will have to wake up on time for something. When they're little, I just let them sleep. I try to go for a run 6 days a week. I started about 10 years ago after I had my first child. And it's been such a blessing for me to be able to run. I find it helps calm me down. It helps a lot with my anxiety. And I do a better job being a mom if I'm able to get this time to just kind of zone out for 30 minutes and do my own thing. While I was running, the early birds were playing in the playroom. They were being a little bit loud. So what you don't see during the time I was running is me stopping 10 million times to tell them to keep it down and not wake up the rest of the kids. At this point in the day, I'll usually check on the laundry and see if there's anything I need to fold. And then I'll get my clothes and head downstairs for the day. I don't wear makeup, but I do try to take care of my hair every day and just style it a little bit. I used to just throw it up in a bun or a ponytail, but I think if I take the time to actually do it, it makes my whole day go a little bit better because I feel like I've taken care of myself and I'm not at the bottom of my own priority list. After I shower, the kids have usually all woken up and it's time for breakfast. I had some leftover muffins from the day before, so we're going to dish those out before they go bad. And I'll make them some eggs. They usually prefer over easy, so we'll have those just for a little bit of protein with their breakfast. When I only had 2 kids and I was pregnant with my third, people always used to tell me that once we had 3 kids, there would always be one that was unhappy. I don't know what they say about 6 kids, but it seems to me like there are at least 2 that are unhappy with situations most of the time. As unhurried as our morning seems, this was actually a weird morning for us because on Monday mornings, the kids have an online French class that they need to be present for. The youngest has the earliest class and the oldest has the latest class. And so I'm just trying to get them all going and dressed because I don't want them showing up for their meeting with pajamas on. That's not appropriate to me. And so we're just trying to get the breakfast out as fast as possible. While the kids are eating, my little lady woke up, and so I went to go get her and change her and just spend a little bit of quality time with her. When I found out I was pregnant with this girl so soon after I had my 5th baby, I think I was in a little bit of shock. I spent the entire pregnancy just dreading what it would be like to have 6 kids. My husband and I are always open to kids, but it has never happened so quickly for us before. I was pleasantly surprised to discover that life with 6 kids is not so different from life with 5 kids.
Hey, Mama! What? He likes me.
As the older kids were finishing up breakfast and doing farm chores, I sat down with the youngest to nurse the baby and just spend a little bit of time with my younger guys. And usually ends up being everyone piling on me as I read them a story or sing them a song or just sit together quietly. Once I'm done nursing the baby, I'll put her in the exerciser and then I'll quickly clean up the table because we homeschool at our dining room table. I know some people have dedicated workspaces. That's just not a possibility for us in the house we're in at the moment. And so we just make do with our dining room table, which means it needs to be cleaned up immediately. That white bucket you guys see on the counter is our chicken bucket. That's where we put all our food scraps that are not chicken, and we give it to the chickens in our coop and they turn it into eggs. So it's actually a really great way to save money because we're feeding the chickens, which will later give us more food. Since the kids are done breakfast, it's now time for me to eat my breakfast. I don't like to eat first thing in the morning. It usually makes me feel nauseous. I know a lot of people say that you have to for health reasons, but my body just does not want to. I've tried and it doesn't work for me, and it just seems kind of crazy to force myself to do something that my body just does not feel like it needs to be doing. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of our homeschool day. First thing I'll do is I'll set up the 3-year-old. He's not really doing school right now, so we just have these workbooks and I just kind of encourage him and he kind of does them the way he wants to do them. I don't force 3-year-olds to sit down. It's not worth it. It brings a lot of tears. Ask me how I know. So we just kind of do that quickly. Then I will work one-on-one with my 5-year-old. And so she's doing reading skills right now, so she's still at the age where she needs me quite a bit. And from then on, I will move on to the 7-year-old, working with him one-on-one with anything that he needs. And finally, I will help out the 9-year-old, giving her a hand or doing lessons with her that she doesn't quite understand. More or less, the older kids will work independently. The younger kids still really need me to help them out and stay on them. But I like to teach my kids to be independent in their schoolwork because there's not always going to be someone there to help them when they're trying to figure something out in life. And so that sense of independence is something that we really fostered during our homeschool. And I could go on and on about it, but I just feel like it's so important for kids to understand how to work independently and also how to have critical thinking and organize their time. It's just such good skills to be able to teach them. During this time, the toddler will probably run around and make messes, and so I'll have to stop every once in a while and stop him. And the baby is held or goes down for naps, and so that depends on how she's feeling that day. Another Monday task is cleaning out the fridge. I just like to keep it organized and not have things pile up in there. So every Monday I'll go in and I'll take all the stuff out that's questionable or anything that's gone bad. I'll feed the things that are salvageable to either the chickens or the dogs or the pigs if we have some. And so not a lot of food actually goes to waste because we feed it to all the animals. But I don't like to take risks on any of our food. If it looks kind of weird or it smells kind of off, then I just get rid of it because it's not worth the hassle. This is also a good time to wipe the fridge down and all the shelves so it looks nice and shiny in there and makes me feel like I'm a little bit more organized. On this particular Monday, I decided it was time for me to try and reactivate my kefir grains. So I've been doing kefir on and off for the past 3-4 years, and I go through times where I'm all about the kefir and times where I just need it to go into a dormant state. So I'm just reviving them after a brief dormant state. Another Monday morning task is taking out all the meat that we're going to be eating for the week and putting it to thaw in a pan inside our backroom fridge. And while I was in there, I noticed that the milk situation was getting kind of crazy. So I pulled some milk out either to make yogurt or some kind of cheese, and then I just reorganized all the bottles so I'd be able to fit my pan in there with the meat. When I came back in, the baby had woken up, so I just grabbed her and then I headed back to the kitchen. Baby wearing has been such a huge lifesaver for us. I've worn each one of my babies on my back and on my front depending on their age. I do prefer the hard shell carriers just because I find them so quick to get a crying baby on my back, and it has liberated my arms, and so I'm able to get so much more done than I would if I was just holding a baby all the time. I also had to get some grains soaking for the next day. On the left side I have our oatmeal grains soaking, and then the big bowl that I'm filling up with oats is for our granola. To soak the grains, I just add some weight until it covers the oats, and then I let it sit on my counter overnight. And I have another morning task, and that is to feed these sourdough so I can do some baking in the evening. So I dump my sourdough discard into this jar that goes into my fridge, and I will use that for like Dutch babies or something like that. And then I'll refill my sourdough. If you've never used sourdough before, feeding a starter is super simple. You just use 2 parts flour, 1 part water, and mix it all together, and that's feeding the sourdough. Next up on my to-do list is wiping down all the cabinets and wiping down the fridge. I find if I do this once a week, it's easier to maintain than if I were to wait and do one big clean once a month or something. And so this has been the most efficient way for me to keep my cabinets clean. I wanted a cup of tea after all that work, so I went over to my tea cabinet. Over the last year or so, I've really gotten into looking into herbs and how they help my body and how I can use them to my benefit. And so I've just been like foraging for these ingredients in my yard over the summer, or buying them from trusted sources and keeping them in jars in this cabinet. And then every afternoon I go in and I think like, how am I feeling today? And what could I use to support how I'm feeling. And so that's what I'm doing over here. For lunch, we had leftover burgers, but no buns. So I started cutting up all the burger patties, and then I decided to fry them up with some leftover potatoes and make kind of like a burger hash combination, which I thought didn't sound super appealing, but the kids loved it. And I wanted to serve that with some homemade mayo, so I just combined an egg, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, and then about a cup of avocado oil. And then I used my immersion blender just to blend it all up together. Sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't. I don't really understand why sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's like really watery, and I always use the same ingredients and the same amounts. Although if you've watched my previous videos, you know I'm not super specific about actually measuring correctly, so that might be where I'm going wrong. But if anyone knows why it goes watery, let me know in the comments, because I am curious as to why sometimes the mayo works and it doesn't. In this particular case, it did work. I served all this with some sauerkraut and some ketchup or barbecue sauce for whoever wanted it, and I got lots of compliments from the kids, and everyone polished off their plates. While the older kids are finishing up their lunch, I just ran up to keep going on that laundry that I've been doing. Like I've said before, I just always have a load going, and whenever I have a chance to run up and switch it, I do. So that's how we maintain laundry over here. So after lunch, I usually take the kids outside for a little bit before nap time. I know it seems weird to continue with my morning of video into the afternoon, but to me the morning really feels like everything before nap time, and then the afternoon is everything during and after nap time. And so I just wanted to show you guys how awful it is to dress 2 kids who are 17 months apart and under 2 years old to go outside in the middle of a Canadian winter. It takes forever. It feels like it goes on, and I've always said that if there is a hell, when you get there, they have you put mitts on toddlers over and over and over again. Because trying to put a mitt on a toddler is the worst thing in the world. Trying to get their little thumbs into the thumb hole, just thinking about it makes me kind of upset. Thankfully, we did eventually make it outside, and the kids got to run off some energy. And then we were able to come in, and I put the almost 2-year-old and the baby down for a simultaneous nap. And we had a really good rest of the afternoon. And that's the end of my morning, guys. If you could go ahead and hit that like button, that would be amazing. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want to see more content like this, please go ahead and do so. I'm on here every Thursday posting up a new video. I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.